In recent news, there has been much speculation surrounding the United States' ability to impose sanctions on India for purchasing oil from Russia. This raises the question, why is the US unable to take action against India for its oil purchases? In today's video, we will explore the implications of India's oil purchases from Russia and analyze why the US is unable to sanction India in this situation. Hello, and welcome to Prime Time TV. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell for more amazing content. India has increased its imports of Russian oil. You may already know that India bought more Russian crude oil in January than it did in December, which was already a record. Even though Washington asked the rest of the world not to buy Russian fuel, the United States has become the biggest buyer of refined products. If you look at the figures, India's purchases of Russian crude oil have shot up to 1.7 million barrels per day in January. This is a big jump from December 2022, when they bought 1.2 million barrels per day, which was a record at the time. Actually, the US has always bought a lot of virgin gas oil, VGO, which is a refined product from Russia. Now that it can't buy VGO directly from Russia, it buys it from Reliance Energy and Nayara Energy, which run refineries in India. So how much oil does the US buy? Surprisingly, the US buys about 200,000 barrels per day of finished products, mostly VGO from Reliance. By doing this, the United States has become the biggest market for Indian products. While Reliance and Nayara are the two biggest exporters of crude oil to the United States, they are also the two biggest buyers of crude oil from Russia. Now, apart from those two companies, other big public companies like Indian Oil Corporation, Bharat Petroleum, and Hindustan Petroleum got into the game in a big way. Everyone is buying right now, and it's almost like a national sport. This month, Reliance is buying about 600,000 barrels per day of oil from Russia, which is almost half of its total refinery capacity. At the moment, almost all of the crude that goes through the Nayara refinery is from Russia. What about India getting a discount? By now, around 68 tankers have already arrived in India or are on their way. Experts think that India is getting a discount of about $10 on the market. So if India gets a $10 discount, the refiners could save $10 million per tanker. Also, the ships are docking at all of the major ports, like Sikar for Jamnagar, Paradeep for IOC, and Kochi for BP. Apart from these major ones, a few tankers have also docked in Mumbai, Mangalore, Mundra, Chennai, and Visakhapatnam, or on their way there. Since the Ukraine war started almost a year ago, India has been calling for dialogue while ignoring Western appeals not to buy Russian oil. It says it needs Russian crude to make sure its 1.4 billion people have enough energy. At the same time, the US has been working hard to rebuild its strategic reserves, which were depleted by the Russian sanctions ban and efforts to stop the OPEC price hike from raising gas prices in the US. The charts show that the US is the top destination or product in December. The UAE is second, and Singapore is third. The US is sending out a ridiculous amount of VGO. What is VGO broken up into? With a high-tech refinery, you can turn VGO into more complex hydrocarbons. It is a semi-product that is perfect for making fuels for transportation. It works very well as a fuel for automobiles, especially diesel. It can also be upgraded to make gasoline. As far as needs go, India needs about 5.4 million barrels per day of crude oil every month. So now, about 30% of our crude oil comes from Russia. Another 15% to 20% comes from domestic sources, and the remaining 50% comes from other sources. Also, India has cut back on their buying from Saudi Arabia. After China, India is now the second biggest buyer of Russian oil in the world. However, India is the biggest buyer of ship-based consignments. Actually, China gets a lot of through pipelines. Also, because of sanctions, Europe has almost completely stopped buying Russian crude. Only Bulgaria is exempt, so it can buy shiploads of crude oil from Russia. What has the US said about India? The US Assistant Secretary of State for European and Eurasian Affairs, Karen Donfried, said on February 8 that the US is content with the way India is buying oil from Russia. She also said that the US doesn't want to sanction New Delhi because relations between the two countries are so important. Donfried said this in response to a question about India buying oil from Russia during a phone conference. "We are not looking to sanction India. Our relationship with India is the most consequential relationship." She was also glad that India was helping the people of Ukraine by giving them humanitarian aid and calling for Russia to stop its unprovoked war against Ukraine. It is clear that the US cannot impose sanctions on India for buying Russian oil. This is because of India's need for oil to support its economy and the potential consequences of such sanctions. Additionally, the US would be unlikely to gain any political or economic benefit from imposing sanctions on India. All this shows that the US has little choice but to accept India's decision to buy oil from Russia and work towards finding other ways to strengthen the relationship between the two countries. Ultimately, this is a win-win situation for the US and India. What are your thoughts on the US-India sanction debate? Let us know in the comments. Also, if you enjoyed the video, give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.